Chair Ed Verberg.
Here.
John Burnell.
Here.
Tom McGovern.
Here.
And Mr. Ramon Valadez.
Present.
Okay. All right. First of all, thank you very much for everyone, again, for coming for the Pima County Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. A couple things I want to start off with. First of all, because we're using a hybrid sort of meeting, we do have a meeting owl, which is actually capturing all our video and audio. So I ask, is any conversations you may have in the microphone, please keep them at a minimum, because it is relatively sensitive and it may pick it up during the meeting owl as is being broadcast online. Also, in addition, we do have some information pertaining to Title VI regarding discrimination. So I will show that slide here in a moment, and then after that we can proceed with the first item here on the agenda. But let me just put that up on the screen real quick.
So Gilbert, would you be kind enough to read that? I'm trying to read it from here and I have not a clue.
Not a problem. I can read that for you.
Thank you.
Title VI notice to the public. The Pima County Department of Transportation hereby gives public notice that it is the agency's policy to assure full compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987, and all related statutes and regulations in its programs and activities. Title VI requires that no person shall, on the grounds of race, color, sex, national origin, age, or disability, be excluded from the participation in and be denied the benefits of or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any federal aid highway program or other activity for which Pima County receives federal financial assistance. Any person who believes his or her Title VI protection has been violated may file a complaint. Any such complaint must be in writing and filed with the Pima County Transportation Department's Title VI coordinator within 180 days following the date of the alleged discriminatory occurrence. Title VI discrimination complaint forms may be obtained from the Pima County Transportation Department by contacting Katrina Noble, our Title VI coordinator.
Thank you, Gilbert. Did anybody join us since you called roll? Did Ramon join us, for example?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the minutes. I assume everybody got the minutes and reviewed them ahead of time. Any comments on the minutes?
I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, they pass unanimously. All right, let's go to the next topic on the agenda. That's some staff introduction. Catherine Skinner. I should say Director Skinner.
It's my first introduction. Thank you, Chair Verberg and the rest of the committee. On what seems to be almost a regular agenda item, we're announcing some staff changes. Of course, I'm not Ana Olivares. I've moved into the interim director position now that Ana has retired. Her last day at the county was June 3rd. So this is my 4th week as interim director. But the real change we wanted to announce was Paul Casertano is back there. We recently hired him on. He is the Planning and Engineering Division Manager. Many of you may know him from his 25 years at Pima Association of Governments, where he led many efforts. He, of course, was there when the original RTA was developed, and he's gone through all the processes of establishing the administrative code and policies that are for that RTA with the rest of the team over there. But he also oversaw transportation modeling, a GIS team, technical services, traffic operations, and transportation technology. So those are all items that you've heard us present on before. We're really excited to bring him onto the team to help us really lead those efforts for the department. So thank you, Paul.
Great, thank you very much. And welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to Arizona Department of Transportation 5-year plan. Roderick Lang, you're all on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is my first time presenting to this committee, so thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the invite. Hopefully I can share some vital information with you. So, let's see if this is going to stay, first of all. So first of all, let me kind of tell you a little bit about the South Central District and who we are and what we do. Excuse me. So there are 7 districts within the state of Arizona. There's 3 up north and 3 in the south. There's the Northwest, North Central, Northeast, Southwest, South Central, Southeast, and then the Central Districts in Phoenix. So we are that southern central one down in the southern part of the state. And our geographic area is shown up there in that green. So the I-10 section we cover is from essentially the Casablanca TI down to just east of Benson to about 323. We have all of Interstate 19. We take Interstate 8 all the way to the Maricopa County line from I-10. And then we have all the state routes within that whole geographic area that we operate and maintain. Within there are 3 metropolitan planning organizations. Of course, there's PAG. There's one up in the northern part of the district, up in Pinal County, and that's the Sun Corridor MPO. There's one down in the Sierra Vista section, the Sierra Vista MPO. And then there's 2 more central organizations of government. There's SEGO and there's CAG that we also work with, along with many tribal nations in the area. So the way I'm going to move through this presentation, and the way I do this typically, is I kind of talk about what's happening on the ground right now, what's coming up, and what's planned. And in there will be, of course, the 5-year program that we're going to talk about that's happening in PAG and was just approved. So one of the first projects that we are just wrapping up now in the PAG region is pretty significant for us. That's the I-10 Houghton Road traffic interchange, and it's unique to southern Arizona because it's the first project and first traffic interchange down in this part of the state where we're using a diverging diamond interchange where the traffic is switching to the opposite side. It makes it a lot safer, it removes conflicts, makes it more efficient. So that project is pretty much done. It's in the landscape establishment period at this point. So we're pretty proud of that one. That one was done by Ames Construction for a value of about $23 million. And then the next I'm going to give you is kind of a list of all the other projects that are going on for construction right now, and I'll talk to them. We've got a lot of work going on I-19. We're coming up from Duval Mine to Pima Mine Road, and within that project is a bridge deck replacement on the Helmet Peak TI, which is also known as the Sahuarita Road traffic interchange. And then we're also continuing from Pima Mine Road with another contractor going all the way up to SR 86. So essentially, I-19 is pretty much getting repaved all the way up to the end of that tie into the Ajo project that we completed a few years ago. Then we've got an infrastructure, an ITS project going on, Intelligent Transportation System, going all the way from the I-19 or I-10, I-19 intersection down to the border, all along I-19. That one's happening right now. And the big project under construction in the area is SR 77. and that's going all the way from I-10 to Calle Concordia. So it's about an 11-mile stretch, contains 2 projects. We've got about a year left on that job. It's moving along nicely. And the final one that's going on right now is I-10, Tangerine Road to Ina Road with F&F. So something that's interesting that you'll see, maybe you've noticed in there, is there was nothing on 77, but when we complete that 77 project, we'll have completed SR 77 all the way through town, all the way up to the Pima County line. When we finish the SR 86 work, we completed repavement of SR 86 all the way from I-19 all the way out to the airport on the west side to Valencia, out by Valencia. So our state highways in Pima County are in pretty good shape. So on to what is the big project that is coming out, and that is, how do we do this here? Not clicking for me. Thank you. There we go. So we've got a big project that is about to advertise, should be advertising possibly even this week or next week. And by advertising, I mean out for contractors to start picking up plans and looking at the project. We finished our design process and we're entering the construction phase. And this is the final project from a design concept report where the first 2 projects were the replacement and upgrade of the Ina Road traffic interchange, and then the second project was the Ruthroff traffic interchange. And this is the third and final project of that, and that's the widening of mainline I-10 between those 2 TIs. So we're going to be widening I-10 to 4 lanes in that area. We're going to be replacing 4 mainline bridges over the rivers. So there's 2 bridges northbound, southbound over the CDO, and 2 bridges northbound, southbound over the other river. It just escaped me. And in that, we're also going to be upgrading the Sunset traffic, or Sunset interchange, to make that one, to switch it, just like we did Ina and Ruthroff, so we'll get rid of the at-grade crossing. And this project, I want to point out, is quite a significant effort between the county and cooperative effort between the county and upgrade Sunset. So they're tying into our work where we're swapping the traffic interchange, and we're going to be administering the county's project for them at that, but the cooperation was extensive. We'll be taking Sunset out over the railroad, over the river, and then tying it into River Road, plus doing some additional work on the west side of Sunset, along with the swap of our portion. So it's been quite an effort. I'd like to congratulate the County Transportation Department on working with us on this and moving forward. It's a pretty significant project for the region. Okay, now on to the 5-year program. Let's see if I can get myself working here. Everything's falling apart on me over here. Okay, so this is what's going on at I-10. The first one you'll see up there, and I just wanted to put it up there for informational purposes. It's not in PAG, but it is that large section of I-10 south of Phoenix, the narrow section of I-10 on the Gila River Indian community. Right now, we've got $600 million programmed from various sources, $400 million from the legislature and such, for fiscal year 23. There is another large grant out there, a mega grant, that we will find out if we got that in September. And if we get that, that'll be funding for the entire project, and we'll be moving forward. For some reason, if we don't get that, we've still got a plan B, and we're still going to be moving that thing forward. It just may be in phases. We're still navigating through that process, but you're going to see that gap, or that area widen, starting next year. Fiscal year. These are all fiscal years. So ADOT's fiscal year starts in July. July 1st is 23. So the other project you'll see on there is a bridge rehab on I-10 for a railroad crossing at milepost 92. And then the third one down from the bottom is just right-of-way purchase for a large connection for I-10 SR 210. And I'll talk about that further when I get into DCRs and such that are coming up, and you'll kind of see how that ties in. But we're starting to purchase right-of-way for that one. And the final one on I-10 is I-10 at Country Club. And the design, we're going to be advertising for designers on that, and moving into construction in fiscal year '25.
It's hard for me to see, are there numbers up there?
There are, and they are color coordinated for the year. It is. So let's see if, let me go through Country Club, the one on the very bottom. So the numbers on the left, the column on the left, the first column is just Wichcogan MPO, so that says PAG. The second column is the fiscal year for the right-of-way funding. So that says 24. 24 is always blue, fiscal year 24. Okay, and if you look over on the right, that first column is the dollars for the right-of-way funding. So it says there is $23.6 million in the program for right-of-way funding in fiscal year 24. See how this kind of works? And the last number, 229, is the page number in the program that you can find that on, because the program is online. So you can just look all this stuff up and get all the details you want. So I've hopefully given you a way to do that. Okay? So let's move on to the next slide, if we could. It worked for me this time. So projects that we have on I-19, obviously I-8 is not in the region, so we're not going to talk about that one. But I-19 Irvington Road, we're just finishing the process of bringing on a design team for that one. So we expect to be designing it this year and have it in construction in fiscal year 24. That'll be a complete traffic interchange upgrade. And then other work we've got going on in Pima County, you can see most of the work, or all the work essentially, is on SR 86. So out beyond Valencia Road, all in those areas, milepost 90 to 105, 70 to 95, and then an interesting route down on the bottom is one that we're administering for the RTA, which is a wildlife crossing. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the studies that we've got out there, which is where these projects are coming from. So this is the I-10 SR210 study. It's all available online. There's the web page for it. And on the left is the implementation plan for that project. So you can see that the first project out of the top is Country Club. And that's starting to show up in the program. So for the next, kind of an estimate, 10, 15 years, we're going to be marching down this whole section of I-10, upgrading the whole area. So it's going to be how we implement these projects down there. The one I talked about with the right-of-way that we're purchasing, I believe it was in fiscal year 26, is that purple project right in the beginning. So this project not only upgrades I-10, but it's also going to make a connection between I-10 and SR210. So all of that right-of-way purchase that we were talking about in fiscal year 26 at Brazza is for that big interchange. So we're going to be starting to purchase right-of-way on that bigger interchange in year 26. Another big one that's affecting the region quite a bit is a DCR. Does everybody know what a DCR is, Design Concept Report? It's kind of the planning document that we develop to come up with projects. So we have a DCR for I-19 from San Javier Road to I-10. It's been around for quite a while. We've already completed phase 1 and the interim phase 1 of this job. That was, and we're going to be moving on to the phase 3, which is the Irvington one next, and you saw that in the program. So that'll move up. And this is how we're going to be marching down I-19 for probably the next 10 years to widen and expand I-19. So another project that is great interest down in this area is the Sonoran Corridor. So the Sonoran Corridor, there's the alignment for it. Goes from Sarita up to I-19. And the Tier 1 DCR is completed. There is funding that apparently has passed through the legislature for Tier 2. It just hasn't been, I guess, finally approved, is the word that I would use to move that forward. Once, if and when that does get finally approved, we'll be moving into the Tier 2, which will give us a final design corridor study, which we can then take out and determine how we're going to actually construct this facility. And the final one that I'm going to talk about today is the I-11 corridor. The I-11 corridor also has a Tier 1 that's completed. Record of decision is done. The environmental impact statement is done. There is no funding that we have seen or that I am aware of for Tier 2 at this point. So it's kind of hanging. So that was it for my presentation for what's going on. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I had a question about an ongoing project on Oracle Road from about Rudisill up to about McGee. They're doing a lot of roadway edge work, curb and gutter work. Looks like some bus turnouts, a lot of sidewalk work being done. Is there any plans in that project to repave the roadway surface, which is
Yes.
in pretty bad shape?
Yeah, so what you're seeing is part of the work that I talked about in my list on SR 77. That's all part of that project. In that specific area, we're putting what's called a closed drainage system. So it used to be just ditches and stuff on the outside. Now we're putting in pipes and catch basins and all of that stuff to go in there, along with sidewalks. Those things all require curb, so we have to put curb in. So all of that is happening. So the last step in that is going to be the icing on the cake, which is the pavement. So when we finish cutting all of that up and putting the curb in, we'll then go in, we'll mill off that existing pavement, smooth it out, and put new pavement on top of it.
Great, thank you.
That'll be the final step.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Thanks for being here, Rod. Really appreciate the briefing. On the San Xavier Road to I-10, did you say that I-10, we're going to look to widen it, or is it going to stay 2 lanes from Elvin on south?
Are you talking about I-19?
Right, I-19.
Okay, I-19 is going to be widened. I see you're looking at a thing, and it doesn't look like it was printed in color.
No,
I'm
it
gonna
wasn't.
I'm gonna give you my color one, because you will see exactly where it's gonna be widened and such, because yes, we are going to be widening it.
Okay.
Anything else, Tom?
No, I'll take it. Just thanks for all the work along I-19, Rod. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
The folks down in Green Valley area, Sahuarita area, just tickled pink that, they're getting noticed in their main artery up to the Tucson area and down to Nogales, actually. There's a lot of work being done, so I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, Rodney, thank you very much for coming, walking us through what you're doing, what you have planned, a lot on the calendar, so to speak. So
Yes.
we appreciate the update. Thank you very
And
much.
thank you.
Okay, let's go to the road repair update. Michelle Montanino and Jason Boley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michelle Montanino. I'm with Pima County DOT, and I will provide you with a brief update on our fiscal year 22 pavement repair program. So, since we last met, we've added 5 new projects to our substantial completion list. There are still some cleanup activities occurring on these, but all of the paving, the utility work, the concrete work is all accomplished and complete. So those will be quickly ceasing all construction activity and wrapping up. So, in construction, I have several updates on these projects. In Board of Supervisors Districts 1 and 4, all of the paving is now complete. The utility adjustments and speed humps will be spilling over into July, but that is all that's remaining on that project. In Board of Supervisors 1 and 3, all of the paving is now complete and just the utility adjustments remain. Again, those will probably be spilling over into the July timeframe. Board of Supervisors District 5, we're about halfway through the milling and paving. That one will also be extending into July. In Green Valley, they are continuing with the milling and paving, and we are still being held up a little bit on the railroad clearance for the Mission Road crossing. That one, we are hoping to get that utility clearance in the next couple of days. It was due back, I think, on the 19th, so they're a little delayed in getting that back to us. But we've reached out to the railroad to see what we can do to move that forward. In the southeast area, They are out there paving the crossovers in J6, so that will wrap up the paving for the southeast area. That will be complete this week. They're out there right now. The utilities in J6 will also be done after the paving is complete out there, and that's probably going to spill over into July. Cardinals Estates, all of the paving is complete, so they have some utility adjustments to do, and that will be wrapping up. North Point, Saguaro Vista, Shiva Vista, they are finishing the paving today, and then utility adjustments will be occurring through the end of this week and into July. Countryside Vista, paving is complete. Utility work is extending into July. Sunny Hills, milling and paving, that one is about 60% done with the paving. I believe that is still on schedule to be completely paved before the end of this week. And then utility work will be extending into July. Northwest Metro paving is complete. Utility work will be extending into July. Summer Haven, we have started work. I've got some other additional slides for Summer Haven, so we'll talk about that project a little bit more detail later on in the presentation. And then Countryside, I've moved up onto this slide. That one, I also have a slide for later in the presentation that has additional information, but that one's on schedule to begin in the middle of July. So our next slide is the concrete photos from Summer Haven. These aren't actual concrete. This is just the formwork that's going on. So unique to the Summer Haven project is we are redoing 3 concrete wash crossings as part of the project. So we're actually removing the old concrete that's out there, forming up, adding in some rebar, and creating a much more stable concrete surface than what was there before. It's probably a little hard to see in the pictures, but there is some pictures where you can see where they've had to create the damming on the upstream side of the wash crossing to pipe the water across, which is the black piping you see across the wash crossings. So those are 2 of the 3 crossings are already poured, and hopefully we'll be opening them shortly. We're just waiting on the concrete strength testing to be complete so that we can open those back up. Here are some pictures of the Green Valley milling and paving. That's going on in the Green Valley area. We've got some pictures from Helmet Peak and, sorry, text is a little hard to read, Paseo Portero and Camino del Sol, and then some by La Cañada area. And then here's some more milling and paving. This one's from the Countryside Vista milling and paving. And then some utility raising that's going on in the Board of Supervisors Districts 1 and 3. Summer Haven, this one is in construction. The contract was awarded on 5/24, and then we issued notice to proceed on 6/13. As I mentioned earlier, 2 of the wash crossings have already been poured. Hopefully we will have them open before the end of the week. The 3rd wash crossing, in order to maintain access, because it is located in the middle of an intersection essentially, so we're having to phase that one in 3 separate phases, so it's going to be 3 separate pours so we can maintain access to all of the properties in the area. But that one, the pouring has gotten a little delayed with the rain that was up there. I believe all the formwork is done, it's just waiting on the things to dry out so we can pour the concrete. Countryside Vista, or Countryside, that's the one next to Countryside Vista. That one has been awarded. The award went to Southern Arizona Paving. Their low bid was $1.6 million, and it's all local roads. This one has an estimated completion of 9/1, and they are scheduled to begin work in the middle of July. So that work will be coming on short. Where we're at, here's where we're at with the numbers. Everything has been advertised. The only thing sitting in the awarded but not started category is that Countryside milling and paving project. We are quickly give you a reference because we don't complete. So at the end of May, we had $75 million of our total budget already invoiced. So to kind of give you a clarification on that, we're about 77% complete with the construction. And then going into fiscal year 23, Jason's out today, so I will be providing you with the update for the 23 program as well. We have gotten the new roads displayed on the map, so everything is reflected there for anybody who wants to see the map showing all of the different roads. It's a lot easier to visualize that way. Green Valley. So this was our first project that we put together. It has been advertised. We have a estimated $6 to $7 million budget for this project. It includes 5.5 million miles of local roads, 11.6 miles of arterial collector, and we had a really good turnout at the pre-bid, so we're thinking good thoughts on this one. The advertisement was on 6/16. It will close on 7/12. So, a couple weeks, we will know the fate. Also advertised is the Green Valley ADA curb ramps. This is a curb ramp project, small, that has several different small subdivisions within the Green Valley area. So it encompasses all of the curb ramp work that needs to happen in Green Valley. This has about 70 curb ramps. It is an estimate of $850,000 to $950,000. The bids actually closed since we created the presentation, so they closed on 6/22. Tucson Asphalt was the low bid, and they came in at $806,000. So finally, we were not low bid. On the, also advertised as the Camino Verde Estates and ADA curb ramp project. This one has approximately 48 curb ramps in a small subdivision. That one is closed on the 23rd. Our engineer's estimate was $450,000 to $550,000, and it came in at $448,000. So far, so good. The last project I have to talk about today is the Central Southwest Milling and Paving. This is kind of a spread out project, a little more spread out than we normally do, just because we have a kind of small pockets on a large variety of areas in that Central Southwest area. Some of the highlights, though, are the arterial collectors are going to be Alvernon Way, some work on Aviation Park, Old Nogales, Summit, Copperleaf, San Joaquin, Dodge, Drexel. So we're kind of encompassing all that southwest area. There's also the local roads. There's South Sheridan Avenue, and then the subdivisions of Sage Creek, Camino Verde Estates, and Diablo Village Estates. So altogether, it crosses Board of Supervisors Districts 2, 3, and 5, and it has 3.6 miles of local roads and 7.3 miles of arterial collectors. And our engineer's estimate is $4.5 to $5.5 million for this project. This has not been advertised as of yet. That will be coming soon. Like I said, it's down in procurement for the final touches. We also sent down 2 more packages, which we'll present some more details on next week, to procurement, and that is our Picture Rocks community area, as well as the Northwest package, which includes the Silver Bell, Trico, and Cosio roads. So far we've gotten packages already, 5, 6 packages already, at least prepared and in the bidding process. So we are doing much better than I think we did last year as far as getting packages out to the community earlier. So again, I'll redirect you to the road repair preservation project map. We are keeping that up to date, and so if you have any questions about where statuses of existing projects or how things are coming along with the fiscal year 23 construction, those will be displayed on that map. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Yes, Tom?
Hi, good afternoon, Michelle, and thanks. On the Summer Haven, just to make sure clarification, so as soon as you get done with the 3 crossings that you're doing right now, is there going to be a hold because of the rains going on right now?
Correct.
And then the repaving is going to start, end by October, sometime in October, but
Yes.
start when? Do we have a?
We don't have a hard date on that just yet, but we are expecting it to start sometime in September to be complete by that October deadline.
Okay.
It probably depends on how the monsoon shapes up and how late it goes into the season.
Right. Okay, and just to say, for some of the folks in the Green Valley area, the peoples the feedback I've got from the Acres 2 and the Foothills 2 neighborhoods, they're ecstatic. They love their new road. So I just wanted to
Very
make
good to
sure
hear.
you guys got kudos for that.
Thank you.
And then it's nice to see the Green Valley area getting bumped up to the first in line this year. That's amazing. I got some good news for the folks down there. Thank you, Michelle.
We try to share the love.
Any other questions for Michelle? For stepping up to second plate for Jason, thank you very much. Especially
He'll be
just
paying
got
me
back
back
from
next month.
vacation, so it's all good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the RTA next update. Catherine, Director Skinner, I should say, and Tom McGovern.
Thank you, Chair Verberg and the committee. As we do every month, Tom McGovern and I will give an update on activities pertaining to the next RTA program. So things have kind of kicked into high gear, I would say, with discussions happening in many different RTA committees and boards right now. So management committee, since last meeting, both the technical management committee and the RTA board have discussed pushing some of the existing RTA projects into RTA Next. So they took action on 2 of the projects. One of them is project number 5, which is Silver Bell Road, and it would be the portion north of Camino del Cerro up to Ina Road, with a recommendation of taking that project into RTA Next. And then the other project is RTA project number 13, which is the First Avenue project from Orange Grove Road to Ina. So that's some definitive action. I know there's been lots of conversation about those. Conversations are still going on for the city's First Avenue project, which is project number 14, which was First Avenue from Grant to River Road. There's a desire to get more public input before any action is taken, whether to push it into the next RTA program or leave it in the existing RTA program. On the CAC level, that group has continued to have conversations around the RTA Next framework and guiding principles after it was decided by the RTA board that was appropriate for them to discuss that. They also requested that the jurisdictions go in and do some ranking of the projects that were submitted for the RTA Next program. So projects, jurisdictions submitted the city 2 years ago by most of the jurisdictions. The city of Tucson waited until Move Tucson was completed before submitting projects. So there's a total of 108 projects between all of the jurisdictions, and the TMC request was put out that the TMC rank those 1 to 108, all of the projects. So that activity is going on, and those are due June 30th. And that'll be a starting point for the CAC to kind of see where all the jurisdictions are looking at these projects. The CART committee is also having conversations. I think this is just a sign that now that a deadline has been made, that there needs to be an RTA Next program by July of 2020. All of the committees are really taking a lot of action, lots and lots of discussions regarding how we get to that program. So that's my update. Mr. McGovern, if you want to provide some additional insights, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I guess maybe a little clarification on the request that went to the TMC jurisdictions regarding prioritization of their projects. The CAC is very interested in hearing from the individual jurisdictions as to how they see their individually submitted projects in priority order. Understanding that it could be almost impossible in a short order of time for the TMC to come together and agree on a 1 through 108 ranking. What we really are hoping for is to hear from the city and the county and the other jurisdictions as to what they think are the most important projects that they have individually submitted. So that'll be a big that not only do they meet the guidelines of the committee, but they also meet the goals that we have set, and perhaps rate them according to how well they meet those, or what areas they are strongest in. And so that's a process that's going on now. But first, I guess, in our next meeting, which is July 18th, I believe, the committee will continue to deliberate about its now 2+-year-old guiding principles and goals. With a third of the committee being new, we recognize that they didn't go through the process with the rest of the group, and so the new ones, we'd like to see how that happened, and then have some input as well. And things have changed. A lot of things have changed in our world, and certainly in our local world. So that is on the table now. We made some pretty good progress at our last meeting, and hope to wrap that up. The board has asked that those guiding principles be brought back to them by their August, and Ms. Skinner, if we could prevail on you to give us some feedback from the department and the county's perspective as to how its individual priorities might look. I think as a committee, it would be helpful for us to understand that and be able to carry that forward. And, just to understand kind of where funding for all of the projects that are needed might be coming from.
That's an excellent idea, Tom, and there's topics on the agenda, so we'll make sure that one gets on. But any questions for Tom or Catherine? Yes.
Tom, I had a question. The Southeast Regional Council, as always, works closely with the county's Department of Transportation, but when is the opportunity to present to the group? Is there going to be a formal opportunity, or is it something that's informal, like in the form of a written report or something?
We don't know yet that additional input. I know that Student has provided good information about projects that are needed in the southeast area. The committee certainly has those in front of it. That might also be something to talk to the TMC about as they identify those projects within the 108 that would that your projects, if you will, your area's projects would fit in. But I do intend to call on jurisdictions that are willing to come talk to us about how they see the priorities within their individual jurisdictions. I know that priorities of Sahuarita are going to be significantly different from South Tucson, and unincorporated Pima County will be different from the city of Tucson's urban core. So all those nuances, I guess, of priority will help the committee do its work.
Okay, other questions? If not, I have one. You talked about projects that will be referred over to the next RTA. One of them's the Silver Bell project that's been around for quite a while. For the ones that are lapping into the next phase or the next round, are those going to be dealt with any differently in the prioritization process, or are they just in the total mix? How is that going to work?
That's a really good question. So neither of those two projects are included. Well, actually, now that I say they're not included, they weren't included in the list that we submitted as the county because we'd anticipated that those were in the existing RTA program. But we did automatically put in many of the remaining RTA projects into the bigger pool of RTA projects 2 years ago, not as a jurisdiction, but just RTA did automatically. So we'll have to reflect on that. I mean, those projects have already been approved by the voters, and they should be delivered in some form. So in that way, they kind of trump the ranking process because they've already been approved and need to be delivered. I think a lot of that policy direction and how that looks, though, will come from RTA board and the CAC having further conversations on what that looks like.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. I mean, you have the city and the county, that own like half of the road at certain locations, and you got all this development happening up in Marana and then down by Grant Road. It's just sprouting up. So
some of the challenges with those two projects specifically was an exercise that we went through looking at what the appropriate scope is on some of these projects. As you can imagine, what we thought might have been the right scope 15 years ago has evolved over time, depending on whether that development materialized or didn't materialize. So making changes to the scope didn't feel appropriate within the existing RTA. That's one of the reasons for the suggestion of pushing it to the next, because it's another opportunity to modify that scope and maybe right-size it for the type of growth. Bell is one that perhaps needs to be larger than the 3 lanes that were suggested, whereas the First Avenue, there's really has not been much growth in that area over the 15 years, so widening it may not be to our best advantage.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you very much,
Thank
Tom
you.
and Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, any other topics besides the one that Tom suggested for the agenda for the next meeting? If not, at this time, you can get them to Annabelle, and she'll put them on the agenda for us. Before we started the meeting, we didn't have any participants step forward, but it looks like we've had some folks join us. Gilbert, do we have anything that's come in since the meeting started? Have any people who've turned up that said they want to speak? Nope, okay. Very good. This is going to be probably, I don't know, I have to check with Latricia, but she stepped out, one of the shorter meetings. We still have another topic, though. Next meeting, usually from my understanding, the committee takes 2 or 3 months off during the summer. So that would be July and August, if that's the pleasure of the committee, or September. So could we have any thoughts related to that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Tom?
I can see taking off July, and maybe coming back in August, just at least to get that RTA next and the update on the repaving program in August. Oh, and I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Could you repeat that so that
Yeah,
it's in the minutes?
I can see taking off next month in July, but then definitely coming back in August specifically to get the RTA next and the repaving program updates, for sure.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Tom?
I guess my preference would be to hear the county's priorities as soon as possible, even if that were in the form of a memo or just some sort of a summary to us. Other than that, I'm fine with taking off both months if necessary. But I would love to be able to hear and discuss a little bit the priorities for the RTA next sooner rather than later.
Okay, so you'd be good with being off in July, but pick back up in August, or you want something before then?
Your choice.
Mr. Chairman,
Push one way or the other.
Yes, Dan?
would it be possible that if we miss July and then come back with a written report on some of the stuff that Tom is talking about, that you can transmit to the committee? And if there's a need for action in the month of August, we'll leave it at your discretion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, why don't we do that? We get a report on the topic that
And then we
Tom
can,
suggested, and
and then we can get the paving reports,
yeah,
you know, the updates on construction.
we can get, yeah, why don't we get both of those in July? We'll just get them to us in over.
Yeah.
And then if we have anything we need before August, we could convene, but for now, and pick back, let July go and pick back up in August, as Tom suggested. So everybody, I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads.
I was
Yes.
just going to offer, that's what we've done previously. We'll do the monthly paving report similar to the slides that are presented at each meeting. So we'll, of course, send that out. And we're preparing a transmittal that'll go to the RTA here in the next couple days with our ranking. So we can share that with the committee. And then if a fuller conversation or discussion is desired, we can either hold a meeting, do that in August, or do something earlier if it's necessary.
With a report on the paving progress, the paving program, and RTA priorities. And if it looks like we need to meet, we'll make sure we do it at least in August. It sounds like that's the preference. So that's what we'll do. Any other comments? Very good. We're not trying to set a record today, but I think everybody sees a weekend coming up that could be filled with a lot of fun. So thank the staff for everything you do to make this meeting possible. And behind the scenes, believe me, there's a lot going on before we ever get here. So thank you very much. And welcome again to our group. We look forward to the next meeting in August. And meantime, if you have anything, you can always, if you have another topic that we didn't have come up, you can always send it to Annabelle, and we'll make sure that we stay on top of it. And thank you all very much. Take a motion for adjournment. Dan, in a second. Tom seconds. All in favor, say aye. Or no opposition. So here we go. We're gone. Thank you.